We'll talk about that later. Hello, everyone. Here we are once more, my dear Adriana and I, willing to share with you some new intel, which is not truly new. It's more actually of bringing it, to the field, to the seen field, from the unseen to the evident one. Very important topics coming up now. We will be talking about the prophecy of Isis and Osiris, rainbow dragons, unicorns, Pegasus, and the HeKau. A lot of people, or many people, is related to the HeKa, which is the mastery of the plasma field. Yet, what is the HeKau, and how is it connected to Isis, and moreover to warping and bending light and creating realities and much more? So welcome, everyone. Hey, Adriana.
Hello, hello, hello from sunny and hot Southern California.
Yeah, there you go.
Sassy, you're right. We totally did not plan it, but we knew what we were talking about. The downloads are strong. They have been strong, right, Isha? How was Sedona for you? Tell us about it.
Oh, my. Well, as always, such a bliss in every way. Very expansive. It's a very humbling and intimate state of connection to oneself, wholeness. And well, one of the things that I was shown is how there are pyramids. There is a sphinx in Sedona. I even took pictures of these places. There are, like already mountains known as the Pyramid Mountain in Sedona. And of course, other type of structures that you get to see that on the top, they have like this megalithic stones that are very much resemblance to the ones that you find in Egypt and in Peru and in other places, including some in Mexico. However, the way that, when you go to a place many times and you see other things, well, in this trip, I was very much aware of those constructions, those ancient constructions, and tapping into very much how did the nature evolve in the whole throughout the story of Sedona, that it's the top that remains untouched. Of course, it's pretty touched and it's eroded, nevertheless, in comparison to the rest. And how is the rest, like has been shaped in this red earth, and which reminded me of the sandstone in Egypt. When you go to the desert, when you go even to the Sphinx, how this sandstone has been shaped or was shaped by the contact with the water when all of that area was underwater. So then I started talking to Lisa Harrington, and she was sharing with me that before there were very specific tribes that were nested in Sedona for a while, and that later on Sedona became like this place of coming and going, like just a temporary place. Nevertheless, it wasn't always like that. And what I was tapping into why this happened is because um, one, the interaction of the water. The land had to go through a very specific evolution in which it had to go into a cocoon. So through that stage of going into a cocoon, it had the purpose of protecting very specific shrines that are located in some energetic wombs, caves there, and in other parts, not only caves, in other parts, so that when the moment came, which is now, the land will go through that stage of opening up again, passing the cocoon stage, and actually evolving into the transition of some codes that are taking place from red mountains to red mountains, including the ones in Egypt, because they were also showing to me that it's very much of the upcoming Zep Tepi. And Zep Tepi is not like a forced marriage with Atlantis. Zep Tepi just refers to the stage in where heaven was on earth. So, and something that Sedona brings to me a lot is Ma'at, because it's critical for you to be in that axis in order to enjoy and feel the beliefs of the land itself, and actually go through that huge evolution that the very same land is opening up to you. You just need to stay humble, stay truthful, and in presence, and in the heart, of course. So that's also a very high connection with the red land, the passion, the fire, the sacred fire, the heart, the spark of enlightenment that we have been talking about. So now, um, also there is this, when I am talking about this transition, of the land, of the land's evolution, it's also talking about when it went into this cocoon state. Of course, the masculine energy had to remain out front. Why? Because it was in that shielding state, in that protective state. Now it's bringing in more about the feminine, so that the land and the waters in the land regain the level. Not only I'm talking about the water level, I'm talking about the impact in the people, because we know that the water are the emotions, and the waters there are super pure, like there are like a lot of springs. So it's about allowing to feel, to connect with those emotions, reaching the vulnerability instead of using them to blast out. Right. It's more about embracing them now and going into this primordial potential field of creation and manifestation, which we know the water is, which is the origin, the capability of bringing, giving birth to. So, yeah, those are one of the things that I was connecting with.
Well, I'm not surprised, because I don't know if our viewers know, but last Friday was the end of the old Mayan New Year. And then last Saturday, we had a day at a time, which was very sacred time of peace and introspection and shifting and changing, right? And then we were going into New Year, which is a red moon year, which is actually tied to water and emotions and all the moon, right? So very fitting. I was watching the transition myself, going from the red and primal and passionate and fire, going through like a golden energy, which you see I'm kind of wearing the gold. We have a gold kind of reddish ball here for today. Incorporating that water, which the way I saw it was like the goddess was getting transformed with the moon, merging that raw passion of the red with the moon, right? And then combining, bringing that peach color in. That was so powerful that it's much more soft and vulnerable and feminine, right? So, and as you were touching upon, beings from Egypt, some of them, the HeKau, right? They will come as a Sekhmet, fiery golden lioness. But then there's another aspect that is the next aspect, transcendent aspect, is with the cobra, right? It's the cobra or feminine head and cobra tail. And you're wearing a ring. Absolutely, you are. And look, I got pearls, right? I'm wearing pearls because I'm so connected with the water. My inner mermaid has been really stepping up, right? So I'm definitely feeling the merge of water and the fire together. So we are in that stage. So everything that you went through, I'm happy to report kind of what's happening here. And I would love to hear from everybody else if they felt that shift when we shifted into Sunday. Was a brand new energy. And then we had a beautiful full moon on Tuesday night in Aquarius, which is not a water moon, it's an air sign, but it's a water bearer. So it brings water. I mean, so fitting. And not only that, but the nodes of fate have changed by the moon too. We went into Aquarius and the Leo nodes of fate. So now for next 18 months, we're going to be, Leo's all about the courage, the heart, stepping into that fire. But then Aquarius is the water bearer, the air, right? So we're going to be working for next 18 months. So it all happened at the same time. Maya New Year, full moon in Aquarius, and then the nodes of fate shifting. So I think we're in for a tremendous elevation in consciousness. The codes have already came in. I think you're bringing through a lot from Sedona. I'm bringing through, and then a lot of Egyptian codes are coming in. And I mean, we're already all aligned for Egypt in November. I can't hear you, so if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I
What
was
dates is the
saying
Egypt
yes.
again?
I was saying
what
yes,
dates?
absolutely.
What dates is the Egypt again? Remind us.
Oh, it's from the 2nd to the 15th of November.
There you go, guys. Sign up for
Yeah.
this trip before it gets sold out because
Yeah,
we're
actually.
all there. So
Yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
there.
Actually, I was even saying that I just spoke about it in our show the other day, and well, all accordingly to plan, they are waiting for us, and it's already sold out. Like
Yeah.
perhaps just 1, 2 places, and just like shifting a little bit the program so for someone else to come. But yet,
Yeah.
so if you feel the calling, just feel free to reach out, because there is no higher force than trusting in your own intuition and what your heart is telling you. So, yeah. So, okay, mermaids. So, you have been connecting with mermaids. Yes. Likewise, we were talking about last show about the Mary's Codex, and Mary comes from mer, which is sea, mar, which is sea. So the maidens of the sea are also connected to the Mary's Codex. So, one of the things that I love about this is when you put all the information and see how it is all super interconnected, and that you don't need like a very logical mind to truly comprehend how it all comes together. Because perhaps if you see, okay, so the Marys were also connected to the mermaids, we're also connected to Isis, Hathor, and so forth, and even the spectral spheres, because the virgins at the church are carrying Jeshua. Jeshua has a sphere, and the very same virgin has another sphere. The very same Mary has another sphere. So, by the ones that don't know what spectral spheres are, I'm talking about like the Buga sphere and all these metallic orbs, well, spheres that are levitating in many places, again, all over the world, mainly in Mexico, even in United States. So that is the reverse engineered translation of plasmoids, plasma beings adopting an spherical form and traveling, using their body, bending light, and becoming the vessel of their own navigation. So that's one thing. Another thing that we were talking about, like that, those crystals, the crystals are spheres and are also transmitters and are reckoning information. So what we see now through all these technologies is the reverse engineer translation of that. So where I was heading to is that when we see how everything is connected, for instance, the Marys with the mares, the mermaids that we were talking about, it's mainly through the primordial field, through the plasma field, through the potential field of creation. We know that the divine feminine as the divine masculine have different roles. One of the roles of the divine feminine is being that potential field of creation that held by its own womb, and within that space, then the masculine will come and direct that energy in full coherence to manifest whatever. So both are equivalently fundamental. Now, speaking about the feminine, is like we're talking about the ocean. So I feel that they are taking us, and when I say they, is ourselves, the different versions of ourselves, and other densities, higher densities, we are allowing us to remember, or we are supporting us in the path of remembrance through even the very same water, because the water as the oxygen are reaching more and more pure states, not because there is something different about it. It's because we are allowing ourselves to access to the depth of those pure sources of life, and actually even our connection to inner earth, where all these sources of purer manifestation of water and oxygen is enhancing. I was also talking about the ant beings. They are pretty much communicating, and even through the ants in all these lands.
I'm laughing because there were so many ants everywhere around here. And even at my work, they made paths all over, and everybody who I know, a couple of people are dealing with ants. And I'm just cracking up, and I'm like, are you sure it's not a message from the ant people? That's what I keep telling them, because they're like, we have ants. And I'm like, yeah, well, they're everywhere. This year it's crazy because they are just crawling everywhere, all over I mean, whether it's Chicago area, whether it's New Jersey, whether it's California, everybody who I know has ants, and you're absolutely right. It's tied to the ant people and the prophecies, right? So, because it's the time, so the messengers are coming out.
Yes. What would you say it's one of the messages that they carry that you have been tapping into?
Well, the number one big message is, what do the ants do? They will send out one, and that one will find, whether there's food, whether there's water, wherever they're looking for, and then will call to others. What is that? Us all getting connected, us all being one, us realizing that we all are connected as one, and we're all each and one important to this great collective of souls of beings. So no deed is small, no deed is too big. It's just what you're called at that given moment. Accept it and do it, because that is your calling. You're part of the whole, no matter how much it feels like you're lonely, because when that one ant is sent out, it's a one ant looking, right? But then as it sends out the call, many other ones are coming, and it becomes nourishing and loving for the whole family, for the whole ant hill. What would you call it? I don't know. Bees have hives. I don't know what ants have, but you see what I mean. The importance of connectedness to all, the importance of we're never alone, we're all one and the same. And at least that's what I'm seeing, that I'm receiving from ants. How about you?
Well, I was saying that I have been mentioning that uh, I I saw that they are creating these ant holes one after the other. Like that's extremely rare, and many of them. many, many of them in just small spaces. So for me, they are creating geometries. They are like creating nodes and then interconnecting them underground. And those nodes are creating specific patterns. And those specific patterns is like, let's say, as how we see the constellations. You know, you have the stars, then you can draw the connection between the stars as however you choose to, and then that's carrying what we would say as an archetype. Yet going in depth is carrying the frequency that the very same geometry is generating. And here is where something very interesting comes. The geometry, what it is generating, once we know that the geometries are not steady like this, they are moving. The key of the geometry is the spin to create coherence. So for me, they are creating those geometries, and those geometries, along with the vortexes, for instance, in Sedona, they are enhancing the coherent field across the land. So for every, let's say, constellation of ant holes that is being generated, there is a vortex that is spinning that geometry that connected as a whole with the other geometries. They are anchoring the codes that the ant beings are emitting. Now, what type of codes could they be emitting? And here is the deal. For me, one of the things that they are trying to convey, when you have an ant hole, there is normally just a queen per hole. So again, the feminine, they are showing that the feminine energy is critical to involve it at a higher scale with all forms of manifestation. Mainly, if we're talking about a new earth. So there is this, like, in comparison to the bees, when the queen bee dies, then the rest of the bees keep on doing their thing. Not in the case of the ants. When the ant queen is dead, then the ants go through a process of, okay, what's going on? So, and I think that that's also reflecting the fact that we were given a choice, yet we were not using it. So now that they are giving us the very same primordial field, the queen, to each one of us, the feminine, the plasma is like, ooh, like it's hot. What am I going to do with this? It's like, that's your power. Deal with it, and also your responsibility. So I think that that's also something that it is showing, that they are showing us that it's time for us to do something with that choice or continue, because I feel that, and I know that many of us are already, you know, uh, using a lot our choice, which is amazing. Yet, the more we choose, the higher that we go in degrees. So then the implications of our choices start growing and growing and growing. So another thing that I feel that they are showing is that our psionics are being amplifying regarding to the frequencies that we're listening. That a lot of people confuse them with tinnitus, or the doctors say that it's tinnitus and it's not. It's, I can see and hear a lot of people saying that that the amount of frequencies that they are listening is impressive, like all the time. And we know that one of the things that this represents is that the galactics or other high dimensional beings are connecting with you, again, most of the times, not all of the times. But for when this happens, I feel that listening to the wisdom of stillness of silence is going to give us the answer of what are the messages that we are receiving, and also what am I going to do with my choice. I don't know if you have experienced this, Adriana.
Yeah, the choice, it's really coming up. The power of the choice, choosing yourself. Not only choosing yourself, being conscious of the choice that you're making. Not making a choice is a choice. It was funny because I was talking to someone today, and they were talking about someone else about who has had many marriages, right? And they're like, this person should never be married again. And I said to the person who was making that statement, why is it such a bad thing? It was an experience. Every time it was a hope of love, and every time it was an experience. And he was trying to explain it to me about this other person. But then they married this one, and then they married this one, and then they cheated with that one, and then they went back to that one. And I said, but it was all an experience. It was all learning. It gets very boring being human. And he's like, but he could have had so much money, if he would have not divorced and had that many women. And I said, yes, he could have, but that's not the experience his soul is after. He wanted to have experience in relationship. So he sat there and he manifested all these different relationships, and he's like, but this is going to be a marriage number 5. And I said, okay, so it's a marriage number 5. This is what his soul is choosing.
He
And
loves marriage.
and he literally said, I call him the Mr. Wrong Choice. And I said, should you not upgrade him and call him maybe the Mr. Right Choice? Like, let him get it right one way. Stop calling him the wrong, getting it wrong every time. Call him getting it right finally. He finally got it right. Like, turn that reality in for him. Change it. Those were his choices. Like I said, we're human. Life is long. They always say life is long and boring. Choose what you're going to do with it, and then people get attached. I don't want to create karma. Really? If you're not creating any kind of experiences in consciousness, what you just said, it gives you much more consciousness as you make choices, right? As you're not creating karma, you're not staying. Your soul's gonna leave. It's gonna exit. You're supposed to be creating karmas and dharmas and getting learning for your soul. That's what the soul wants. So all the most, even the things that we, blame ourselves for or judge as the most foolish thing, or I should have never done it, you learned, didn't you? Choice, the consciousness expanded, your soul expanded, because there's only one, this geometry, this astrological figuration that comes in, that wants to express itself in this great ocean of universe, and he wants to get as many learning possibly as can. And so here you are doing it. Here you are being that. So you totally hit a nail on the head. It comes a great responsibility with the great learning.
Well, what about you? You touched there, like yeah, like a deep point in the tissue of belief systems, which is again, like choice, and what immediately comes after the choice, judgment. Whereas if it's inner judgment or judgment coming from other people, not always, but as in the example that you were saying, it's like, okay, so people is trying to break free from the religious system, institutional system of, oh, you choose, you're bad. Your choice belongs to another force, a limited one. So then if you choose by yourself, it's most likely that you will mess it up, because you're not prepared to make your own choices. You're like a little kid that has no clue on what is the best for you. So then you have the collective saying, okay, so may that government and may Mother Earth choose for them. And then you touch upon gold, like that state of, well, I better stay in my comfort zone, play safe, because if it works, then why changing it? And the thing is that it's not about it's all about experience. You even said it. If you feel that you need to experience something else and you're not doing it because the other thing is just working, then perhaps you are just limiting yourself to up leveling yourself. You're just going into that again, like folding your arms crossed and saying, well, it's like it will take more than what it might possibly give. And the thing is that to create now the amount and the depth of things that we are creating, like a new earth, we really need to take chances. But not chances as, in a full way, like, I don't care about anything. I'll just jump out of the roof, and you haven't even practiced levitation. It's more about, okay, so it might be scary. Those are new things for my ego. Yet I know that's where I'm meant to be and who I'm meant to be and doing what I'm meant to be doing, you know, because otherwise it's that looping system of, imagine, like we were saying about the ants. It's like, okay, the queen died and they keeping themselves on this loop of what are we going to do, whatever. No, life moves on. Life moves on. They will have another queen, such as the bees know, and so forth. And I think that that's. I would love to know what you think about this. But we were talking about the Mary's Codex, the mermaids, and now this. What is that feeling that resides in most of the collective, of that fear to impermanence?
Yeah, that's interesting. People like to know that everything's gonna be safe. That primal fear of like having a home, having a partnership, having food on the table, having a job, right? Being provided for whichever way. And so they will stay in a loop that you're talking about just for the sake of full sense of safety, right? So that's why people choose, okay, I'm getting that, but if I leave the tribe and I explore, I could find something great, but I could also die, right? So what do I choose? And I think the way that energy is happening, it's so expansive that we simply cannot stay anymore put how things have been. If you have heard, a lot of breakups and divorces are happening at the same time, but then a lot of new marriages are forming in divine unions too. I saw a client earlier today, and he said to me, I'm thinking about marrying again, and I said, well, let me look, into your birth chart, which I did. And I said, oh, look, in next 18 months, I see that you're going to propose. And then once the nodes flip again, you're going to get married in about 2 years. It's when it's favorable for you. And he goes, so you support me getting married? And I said, absolutely. I'm always going to support you getting married because it's an experience. And then I looked at his and his mate chart, and I was saying, well, look, she'll give you this and you'll give her that. And this will be the learning and that will be that. And I'm like, you have enough similarities, yet enough differences for it to be karma. As long as there's karma, there's going to be something to work through. So that means you're going to stay together. Like, is it going to last forever? I can't tell you in these energies, nor I would want to, right? Like, it's going to be whatever you make it to be, but it's going to be learning for sure. And I'm like, but I'm always pro love. I'm always pro new experiences, right?
Yes, and even if he didn't choose to get married again, it's like whatever he chooses or she chooses to do,
But he wants to. The heart
Yeah.
was really there.
And it's so beautiful in a way how people need support from others most, like that encouragement, like, yeah, yeah, you've got this, you can do this. I believe in you. Because that's also one of the most vulnerable aspects of being inherently as part of a unified consciousness. As long as it is not attachment, like you depend on. Yet it's always very good to have that voice that tells you, hey, you're not alone. I believe in you. Because again, that's also one of the things that I feel that it's critical for us to move forward into this creation, which is the feedback from a person, feedback uh, from the universe at different scales, through events, people, emotions, you choose. So now, which brings me to the prophecy of Isis and Osiris that I want to share. So when I was living in Egypt, I did many trips. I brought along like many people, or even not on purpose, like just people would come and knock at my door. Hey, can we go to visit the temples and so forth? Of course, friends of mine, and always. And now the thing is that one of the things that I did in one of the biggest trips that I had done so far was, there is a code between Isis, Osiris, and Luxor. When you tap into the words into the Kemetic words, which are Isis au Set, Osiris au Ser, and Luxor was Set. So it's a playground of words that actually are in very much resonance with one another. Mainly if you pronounce them in Kemetic or ancient Egyptian. So I started translating an alphabet that I call it the sounds of the one, which I will be sharing at some point and also in the trip to Egypt. So these are mainly symbols. They are frequencies. When you write them, put them together, it's like if you were seeing quadrangular notes, synodal waves, quadrangular waves, triangular, synodal, and so forth. And it's not that they are just the curve itself, but the way that the frequency, you see how the words grid together, how it's flowing. So when I translated the words was set, auser, and auset, it is exactly the same spelling, the very same form of writing. So that's when I started, at that moment, that's when I started to reconnect that names are just codes that carry frequencies, codes that generate geometries due to the frequency that they generate. So the code that these three names have is the trine arc, or the divine trinity, because Luxor, actually what it means in Greek is the golden light. Lux, light, or gold. So it's the golden light. And Luxor is at the center of Egypt. So now, when I was doing this trip, we did a lot of, great work anchoring this divine trinity everywhere that we went to, even to Nabta Playa. Nabta Playa is the Egyptian Stonehenge. To get there is highly improbable because you can only get there by knowing the military guys that work there, and not only knowing them, knowing how to deal all of it. So I just want to thank you, my dear friend, as that who took us there, in this once in a lifetime experience. Because once we anchored it there, and of course all the beautiful group that came with me that time to honor them always. And we did this after going through all these sites and anchoring this code before leaving Egypt. this time, like 2 years ago, somebody told me that there will be a solar eclipse in Luxor, the first after many years, and it's going to be the longest one experienced so far. So there is an eclipse, a solar eclipse coming up on the 27th, August 27th. And what is going to happen is that it's going to open a portal, a huge portal in Luxor that connects with the golden light that also Akhenaten anchored there and covered it, like as in Sedona, created a cocoon for when the time came, and the time is precisely now. And we will be preparing the space for when the codes come, now that we are in Egypt, that we will be in Egypt in November. One of the things that we will be doing is precisely opening up the field so that when those codes come, they go coherently through the stargates that are connected throughout all Egypt and connecting to other lands across the world. Sedona is one of them. So now the prophecy resides in the fact that we were talking about all these interactions, divine feminine, toxic masculine, divine feminine, and so forth. So what does the Isis and Osiris code mean in depth? We have talked about this in other times, yet we hadn't approached it to that in this way as how I'm going to express now. So there are 4 pillars along with Isis and Osiris, which are Nephthys and Set. Each one represents, besides a being, an archetype. Osiris, of course, let's say the divine masculine, Isis, the divine feminine. Nephthys, not forcefully the toxic feminine. This is what has been attributed to her, because apparently she had intercourse with Osiris, and then she gave birth to Anubis, and then Anubis was taken under the wings of Isis as her son. And of course, Set, who is known as, like this toxic masculine, the unfertile, whereas Osiris is the fertility and so forth. So the thing is that Osiris is shredded in 14 pieces. 14 pieces that are connected through our joints, which is motion. What can Osiris not do in most of the reliefs in the temples, how it is shown? He's mummified. His body is grabbed, or not grabbed, but always like this. You don't see him like this. You will see Thoth or Anubis or Ptah. Well, Ptah is kind of as well. So that is a representation not of the immovable. It's showing the representation of that which becomes permanent. Therefore, when we're talking about impermanence, we're talking about motion. But then again, you will say, hey, but isn't everything impermanent? Everything is continuously evolving. Yes. Yet, therefore, what is impermanent is the foundations of something. And so is Isis. So Osiris gets shredded by the mindset, the program. Imagine a guy right now, coping with all of this reality, having wounds, being betrayed, being this, having a toxic family, and so forth. So the program itself sheds the divine masculine, not men, the divine masculine into pieces. How so? Instead of having that full direction and certainty, you go through so many things that at some point you become separated from yourself. and you doubt in yourself and you feel fear for your choices and so forth. That's what happens to the masculine, because again, the masculine is that which puts order, which sets a direction. So then what Isis represents in that moment is that she takes the power, or she allies with the power of the containment, which is Nephthys, her twin sister, and the power of Anubis, of of also helping in the process of transfiguration by keeping the heart coherence, because Anubis is the one who measures the heart with a feather. So, bottom line, what happens next and how Isis relates to the HeKau is because the HeKau are the practices that are used to master the plasma. Every priestess was a master in warping plasma, most of them, at least high priestesses for sure, high priests for sure. They were, in order for them to be that, they needed to know how to bend light, how to shape the ethers. So now, this is how Isis brought back to life Osiris, through that potential field. So it's a rebirth of the divine masculine. It's a rebirth of that compassion, of that potential field. Instead of being chaotic, is holding that divine masculine, for the masculine to be safe and reemerge into its new form. So, and I mean, I could even go in depth with all this. I will be talking about this in Egypt plenty enough, but there are so many codes that are coming through, like even Akhenaten was a title. Akhenaten is the one who transfigures into light and reaching that plasma orb level. So that was a title, and all of them achieved that. Most of the people in Amarna. Nefertiti fled along with some of her daughters, but the rest, and we will also be going to Tele La Marna. So summarizing, and I would love to hear your input on this, dear. So the prophecy of Isis and Osiris talk about the restoration of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And that's what I was saying in the beginning, like Sedona as a land, like bringing and amplifying the divine feminine energy, and in everywhere, not only there, everywhere. So the prophecy mainly is that when there is the solar eclipse in Luxor, this portal will open up. A lot of codes that were held in the cube of light in the West Bank desert in Luxor of Isis, which is the primordial form of technology, because before that idea was hijacked by other religions and made into a black cube and harvesting plasma. The cube of light was the nest for Christic consciousness, for people to become Christed beings, opening up the cube, reaching their own cross, and spinning it all the way into achieving the 33 degrees of the Atlantean cross, or the Chakana, or the 33 Chakana degrees. And there is another part, that's the feminine. The masculine is, they say that they found the Osiris tomb. Barely anyone talks about it. in what the West Bank. Underneath, there are technologies that are very much in resemblance to the Osiris, where we will be going as well in Abydos.
I was just thinking about the Abydos as you were talking about it. Go on.
Yeah, no, I'm about to wrap it up. But so these two technologies will be reactivated. So it's super important what will be done, because then whatever takes place at the eclipse will already be contained in a field of coherence for the codes to reach wherever they need to reach. Because even you think about this, why do these fundamental groups in these Arab groups, why they took the name ISIS? Why? Because they are using the power of that frequency and connecting to the Kaaba. So they are using that power, that primordial field, to anchor their purpose. And even more so, the name or the nickname of the president in Egypt backwards, Sisi, is Isis. Why? Can someone explain me? Explain to me before I say. Yeah.
How powerful is that? I mean, just being in the temples of Abydos and then Osirian, as you know, that you were touching upon and talking, there's a flower of life in Osirian that you get to stand on, and it's been told that the waters that are in Osirians are life-giving waters, that anybody who touches the water receives miracles and heals themselves. And it's because of what you just said, the secret things that are below it. When I was in Egypt last time, I stood above Osirian. I was not allowed to go into it, to my greatest disappointment, because I dreamt about that place for about 2 years in my dreams. And speaking of, I've been going to Egypt ever since I made the decision to join, and go with you. I've been dreaming about it. I've been already traveling. So that means we're already on the mission there, big time, serving at this time, which is very, very powerful. So when you come there, get ready to have your divine masculine and divine codes, feminine codes restored to the fullest, because that is one of the entry points into Milky Way galaxy, and that where your DNA is going to be restored. I absolutely love the sound of the restored DNA that you sent me the other day too, which was tremendous, which is extremely healing. So yes, I'm seeing exactly what you're talking about, that the masculine and the feminine are restoring their codes, are healing themselves. I feel like a lot of divine feminine and that toxic feminine is pretty much done and over with. A lot of women have stepped into the goddess, right? Transmuted into the goddess, and now the masculine is transforming themselves as a result, shedding the last layers as their phallus is being reinstalled back with Isis, right? To Osiris. So, empowering, allowing the masculine to be who they are, to express themselves, valuing their opinion, their importance, right? And then also ourselves having the feminine and the masculine side. So rebalancing that masculine and feminine. And then really, really strongly, what I still want to touch upon is that water and the pearls, back to mermaids, right? Like I call them the spheres of possibilities, right? Like the plasma energy, like anything can happen, right? The ball. I think that's what you were asking me. What did I call them last time? Unlimited possibilities, spheres of unlimited possibilities, because it's a vortex, right? That you have, that you create in your hands. And I mean, the topic that we're talking today is the HeKau, that each priestess and priest, high priest and high priestess, had those sacred magic words in Egypt, the words that they knew how to invoke certain things, that the certain planetary alignments in the sky. We just had a Sirius gate, and we're still in a Sirius portal till the 8-8, which we're calling the Lion's Gate right now, right? So you are currently in unlimited potential from this full moon. We're stepping into eclipses. You called it yourself. First eclipse is going to happen, I believe, solar on August 12th, 26, and then being closed by August 27, 26, which is going to be a lunar. So what are you going to manifest in this time, already starting? This full moon in Aquarius really showed you what's, and it removed what was not for you, realigned you back with the Mayan calendar. I believe we got realigned to that Mayan calendar, original calendar you talk about, YssaH, all the time. We got put onto that timeline. I felt, you've asked me, I'm like, it's easy for me to travel anywhere in time and space right now. I'm not limited by anything. I'm not held back by matrix any longer. Wherever I want to step into, and I'm changing form and time and place continuously, because it doesn't exist. All is but a thought, and I'm there and I'm doing it. And then I'm over here and I'm doing it here, doing this. And then it's a free human will as well, right? What do I choose? What reality am I going to choose? What choice? And with the choice, what karma am I going to incur? And the most important thing is I'm connecting to my higher self. And I'm saying, hey, you kind of know what's going on up here. So I would like to be aligned with you. I know I have a free human will, but I kind of want to be aligned with you before I make some choices in my life. So I'd like you to step in and give me guidance too. That it's aligned with the stars by the soul's plan for myself. So we're in this sacred portal, very, very sacred portal. And a lot of meditation is recommended, a lot of connection, to the divine, however you want to call it, meditating, going to yoga, whatever will purify and open your body, swimming, exercising, walking, hiking, whatever it does for you. These are the days that you want to put in that work to bring in more of the alignment of the two. Right? I can't hear you, YssaH. It's okay. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so, you know, that alignment of the two forces is something that has been spoken of like forever.
Yes.
Like, yeah, we're getting there. We are uniting the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And speaking of water, speaking of frequency, and speaking of mermaids, I think about the level of the voice in the mermaids, that level of voice.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it's something that was lost like for long, until now, because even of course we had singers and opera people and so forth. There wasn't that connection of the collective with their own voice. And now you see more people doing the light language, singing, even though they wouldn't be considered, as like a public singer. Yet there is that allowance of just expressing yourself. And here we go again and touching the depth of why we are truly here. Are we here to prove ourselves? Are we here to experience ourselves? Are we here to create and recreate ourselves? And I think that even though we go through all of those facets, it all comes to being, being. And all these type of ancient civilizations, there is no access to all these high teachings without two things that I as how I experience it. The first one is discipline, which is self commitment. And the second one is doing it from a space of love. Because that who does it just to become something that that is inspired by something outside, like proving yourself or whatever, it's not sustainable. And look how even in the deep of the relationship between men and women, or divine feminine and divine masculine within, it's like you have this masculine, the divine masculine, and going again into this example of Osiris, which normally always brings in people the sacrifice. And I always invite them and encourage them to go beyond the sacrifice belief system, because that's how they trapped the collective. One of the ways that they trapped it, because at least the connotation that they gave to sacrifice, because actually the true connotation of sacrifice is sacred office in Latin. So, what is your sacred office? It's your temple, that resting place, that place where you reside, where your soul, your spirit, your consciousness, your, at least for a finite amount of time, for as long as you breathe. And of course, it's not just localized. Your soul expands into the everything, as so is your spirit. But the thing that I mean here is we have come from deep phases of being guided outside of us. And we allowed it, we accepted it. And this era is showing us to go deep, 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 deep within before thinking about going without and sharing ourselves with others. Because even if the other is giving me feedback, if I don't know who I am at a specific extent, then that feedback that is given to you won't be fully used, because then you will think it's only about the other, or you will think that you will separate yourself from the very same experience. And when we separate ourselves from our experiences, it can be whether coming from escaping or coming from a choice, a conscious choice. So, and that thing that I do know, and because this is very connected to what you were saying at the beginning, Adriana, this gives our power back. Every time that it's a restoration, it's owning our authority, our our own power, because then you admit that there is no other force choosing for you. You're not in victim consciousness. So that is something that sacrifice. How would you say, before me saying, I would love for you to say, Adriana, how would you connect sacrifice and victimism?
So I think it really comes from a lot of religions, because we're taught, for the greater good of family, you have to, sacrifice yourself. You have to be a good girl. You have to be a good boy and listen and behave, because our family name has to be good, right? And impeccable out there. And then it's like, that's how they train us to self-sacrifice. You have to sit in a church quietly. You can't express yourself. You're not supposed to have emotion. It kind of starts with that conditioning, right? So then, because you sacrifice so much in life for the others, rises this certain level of anger and victimization, right? And entitlement. Like, I sacrificed all of this and all of this and all of this. When am I finally? That's where builds a victim. When am I finally going to get my payout? I've been waiting all of my life. When is it going to be my time? I hear that from clients all the time, especially when it comes to relationships. When is it going to be my time? When
Hmm.
do you want it to be your time? When do you want to own it? When you're ready to receive it? When do
Yeah.
you feel worthy? Right? And that is where that separation comes from. Sacrificing all this. You have to do this in order to get that, right? Like, aren't we told, if you give this up, then you're gonna get that? In every religion, we're promised something, right? In
Yes.
life, if you go to school and give your time, you then have a stability in a job, right? And how many people are working in that stability in a job and angry, right? Like, what do I have? I just work 9 to 5 and it's paycheck to paycheck over and over and over, right? Like, where's my freedom? Like, I'm not expressing myself. So I think this young generation now that is in their 20s, I love, the change that they're bringing. They're unmistakably, they're like, well, you guys ran us into every debt. We're never going to own anything. know? So we might as well just experience the life that we want to experience, and do whatever we want to do with it. And it was funny. My daughter, she went to school to be a therapist. And I said to her, you're excellent therapist. Why are you not doing that? You've been counseling all of your friends since teenage years. And she goes, because it's not fun, mom. So she's going to be a hairstylist because that is a lot more fun. And I mean, if you look at it, it's a similar thing because she's still changing people's lives by beautification and listening to them and still doing therapy, right? In some way. But she found
Of
a
course.
fun way to do it, right? You see what I mean? Like, she will not settle anymore and sacrifice because she can help many. No, unless it's having fun and helping, she's not doing it. So there's change inside of them that I already see, that it's not willing to settle down for how it has to be, the old writing, the old beliefs, the old, what you said, separations that were put on us, to separate us. So then we have to become the victims because we keep waiting for the life.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of which, it's like for me, this is very much connected, this form of consciousness to the rainbow, uh, to the rainbow consciousness, to the Christed ones, because the Christed ones are the it's all about being the pure and crystalline transmission of light. And for that to be, it's important for you to stay in a space of truth constantly. And how can you remain in a space of truth if you have guilt, if you have fear, if you have, if you think that you owe your life, your energy, your time to even your parents? So because we came to this reality taught that we even have the life, the life debt, which is
Mm-hmm.
the debt to the parents because they gave life to you. So then you have many children that are that chose that their soul chose just to live for their parents, and that is a polarity, whereas others the other way around. So it's always about doing what you do, not because you are paying off something or because you are trying to be worthy of it. That is like nonsensical for me, because you are worthy already. Even if you had done the most despicable things in your mind, you are always worthy. Why? Because you are not your actions. Your actions don't define your presence. You can define yourself by who you are embodying right here, right now. And what you are choosing right here, right now, might be completely different from what you chose like 10 minutes ago, because you are that powerful. We are that powerful. Well, we can shift a reality in just seconds. What happens when people dies all of a sudden? How their life or the people around them shifts in just a matter of seconds, because that's the power of choice. You know, you can change everything by one choice in just 1 second. So I know perhaps for some people this might be like pretty overwhelming. Yet how can you show love and embody love if you don't trust in you exploring your own path and to see what you're all about? And I think that this is also very much connected to the Christed ones, in a sense of that connection I was talking about last show with the Messiah and the Mesa, that it's this reptile being that was known to be present in the Nile as a dragon. And Messiah, we know that is very much related to the one who came to save the world, you know. But the thing is that Messiah is that who is there for himself, herself nowadays. Because of course it's pretty different from when it was, you know, and in that stage where the Buddhas and the Christs, and you know, now we are in an era where each one is creating its own honeycomb. And once your honeycomb is feel full with honey, then we connect that same lattice, you know. And that's when we are truly bringing beauty to this reality, because we are allowing ourselves to show ourselves what we're capable of, even if it's not what you had expected, because you have the power to make everything sacred. Even, you know, and this is something very much connected to the ancient teachings and talking about the priestesses and the mermaids and the Marys and
the magic, the sacred magic.
exactly, the alchemy. With a touch, we can shift reality without even expressing a word. Words are pretty sacred. Just with our eyes, with a look, we can shift everything. Like, how many times have you been super mad and then someone gives you, like your kid, this look of pure love, and then it's like you come back to yourself and it's like, or when you're immersed in your dramas or whatever, and then all of a sudden someone out of the blue comes and touches you with the most kind touch, and you're like, did you remember what is truly essential? And essence is presence. So that is very much connected to this ancient knowledge, ancient wisdom, presence. Presence is leave your footprint everywhere you go, not because you're trying to stamp it. Yeah, I was here, you know, I was in the moon. It's more of my steps go as deep as my footprints in the sand, in the moisted sand, not because I'm imposing myself, yet because I merge with my reality. And if the footsteps shall fade away, the implications of what you planted, the seeds that you consciously planted in this earth, will never fade away. For how impermanent the reality is, they will never fade away, because that's the key between mortality and immortality. We get to encapsule the limitless in a frame, and we get to expand the limited into an illimited field. How so? How many times, what I was saying, a choice, a choice that perhaps you wouldn't do now, but how many times a choice has haunted you? You're making it eternal. Why? And how many times people have come to you and told you, acknowledging you, or you even for 1 second saying, oh, wow, I did a good job. But when it comes to the balance, to the scale, it's like it's very easy for most humans to just focus and making eternal the things that they don't like about themselves. Why? And I feel, and I would love for you to answer this, Adriana. For me, what I see is that there is a part in most of the people that feels that deeper is the more that it shakes you, and shaking connecting to the survival mode. What if we allow ourselves to be shaken by the eternal mode?
And that's beautiful, because then that gives you responsibility of having unlimited possibilities. Once you have responsibilities that you're not shaped by, you get to make any kind of decision that you choose to make. Right? But think about it. When we're small, we're always told you got to go to school, because if you don't, do you see that person? There's always like somebody somewhere on the street sleeping, for the parent to like, you're going to end up like that. Or if you drink too much alcohol, you're going to end up like that. Or if you eat too much food, you're going to end up like there's always someone to be pointed at as a choice. And it's almost like the fear is that manipulation of like keeping us in the cage, limited, really being in that time space, in that limited time and space of expectation. And so as you allow yourself to go into unlimited possibilities, it becomes like a black hole, like a vortex, right? What are you going to create when there is no rule? Right? We talked about it in the last time, why the women, when they were in their monthly, having the vortexes in their wombs and the sacred, were not allowed into some places because the energy and the vortex that they created was so powerful. So by your choices and willingness to accept responsibility for your choices creates unlimited possibilities, because then you're not bound by fear. You're not held back by anything, right? And then you own the power. Nobody else owns the power. You have that pearl of creation, right? And then what happens to the magic? You have the magic. You find the words that you have, your voice becomes the spoken word. Every word you say becomes sacred, becomes creation of reality. And then what happens to a regular horse turns into magical unicorn. Once you give it wings, becomes a Pegasus, right? All these magical creatures. This is what we're harping at, the power of the magic that is deep inside of each one of us. I've never met a person that didn't even tiny bit believe in magic. Everybody. I mean, why do we have Harry Potters of the world being so successful? All the magic, we have dragon shows on HBO right now. People can't get enough of the dragons, of the magic, of the old world magic. Right? Why? Because it lives on the inside of us. It has been coded, that primordial force, that memory, that's who we are. That is what we can live up to and change and take all those unlimited possibilities and turn them into anything we want. And it
Yeah.
was so funny because the other day at my work. I mean, I get a great kick out of everyone because I know everyone's astrological chart. And so I know why each one, and I'm always explaining to each one of them why this one works with that one and why we're all together, right? Besides all being tied by a past life, right? And I'm like, and this person brings out that, and that's how we co-create. And I'm always just explaining, you have that alignment, you have that alignment. And so somebody was saying, like, what would you do? And the guy passing by goes, I would be a millionaire, right? And I'm like, well, shall you be a millionaire then? And as he walked by, the other person that asked, he goes, that's all he was going to waste his life on, becoming a millionaire? Like, isn't there like a better thing in life to do? And I say, see, for you, there's that thing to do. For him, becoming a millionaire, it's his thing to do. For someone else, life purpose is something completely different. And so we're each expressing ourselves, and we have to honor the choices that we each make, the beauty of the choices that we've made, and what we manifested, because I think it's tremendous.
Yes. Yes. And speaking of which, I can't wait. I'm so excited to see what's coming up in the next stages of human evolution in as a cosmic race, because as you were saying, like there is a lot coming uh online about the dragons. They have been present, like I'm not talking even as founders, I'm talking about people bringing them up. There have been like different booms of them rising, and everybody tapping into them. And in this boom, I just want to say that I was connecting to the rainbow dragons, as I was saying, that Christed form of dragon. So why would the dragons be considered as, or later on related to the word Messiah, if it's the chosen one that is going to save the world? Well, there is a lot of this type of books that talk about the dragons as this guardians of the treasures, that they have their own treasures, and also the dragons with the sphere of knowledge, of wisdom. So if you go beyond all those stories, and I'm not saying the stories, as something that is just children, for children books. Now I'm talking about like children books talk about a lot of truths, but what I'm focusing right now is, for what I have been connecting with is that the dragons themselves and their connection to the Messiah is through the fact that they represent as Kukulkan, the feather serpent. So you're talking about that who goes deep into the earth as a snake, and we know the story of the snake, which is the, like, from a religious point of view, it was crawling in the earth because it was punished, blah 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 blah. Yet it's actually the capability of tracing ley lines through the earth, creating nodes, creating nexuses, and also having that capability of conquering the sky. So it's bringing heaven and earth together. And every form of Messiah has done that. For as much as enlightened they are, as much as grounded they are as well, because it's all about bringing this reality here, bringing this reality here. Now there is another thing that I was also mentioning last time, which is more into goes more into the genetics, that um, the way that the dragons connecting to Isis, and how these priestesses would give birth to through the parthenogenesis, is a sexual form of reproduction. Then we're talking about high levels of plasma compressed. I'm just summarizing it, and bending the light and spinning at a frequency that then through your own stem cells, achieving that replication of the gametes. So again, plasma warping. So now the rainbow dragon, in contrast to the other dragons of every color, every flavor of the palette, the rainbow ones are actually the communion of the other ones, of all the other ones. It's like bringing the templates of all the other ones together. And this is also something that I was writing about the 13 pyramids and how 13 of this, 7 pyramids, no, 13 pyramids, and these dragons are actually in stasis and coupled through encapsulated vessels, and they are there in very specific parts of the pyramids, including the Great Pyramid of Giza. In those chambers that haven't been opened, I'm not talking physically speaking because they are at a different density. So once those chambers are opened, then the consciousness of that dragon, which is the rainbow dragon in that pyramid, in the Great Pyramid, will activate. And the implications to that will be the restoration of very specific codes that many of the religious institutions took to bring shame, blame, all that type of frequencies to harvest and castrate humans. Because this is why also Isis gives the representation of the golden phallus, because while you were speaking, Adriana, and saying all these examples of people, like as consciousness of separation, are beings that have been shredded by the program. When a program, a belief system, shreds you into pieces, it's castration. So when we restore our golden chalice, our golden phallus, is the representation of using that infinite field of potential, that free energy within, to actually give birth to ourselves. And the birds species are one of the highest consciousnesses, because even the way that they sing, the way that their own brain works, how they remember, how their pineal gland, everything that is related to them, they are highly advanced. So this is why, again, like the serpent feather, the feathered serpent, and also, of course, the serpent representing that life force, so you're bringing again heaven to earth. So each dragon will be bringing a template of the archetypes that we have been shown even through the zodiac, because we know that there are 12 for the tropical signs, 13 for the sidereal, 14 for the ones coming up, and we will go on and on and on. We're always tapping into new information. The most important is to be truthful to the one that resonates within you the most. So again, these 13 templates, 12 are coupled with one another through the pyramids, male and female energy. And even though they are in different pyramids, they are coupled by means of this. When one activates, the other one will activate simultaneously. So in Egypt, we'll begin through a lot of work that will be done this year, and through after the solar eclipse on 2027. They call it the eclipse of the century, just that you guys know, because it's going to be the longest known so far. So that's how powerful and how many energies they will be moving. So yeah, expect big things because big things will be taking place after that. Just know that all the energy that comes through, you can always bring it or warp it in a way that the black oil, you can transform it into gold. And that gold, you can direct it to whatever you choose to manifest, to create, because that who is in no fear of creation is in no lack of manifestation. So the choice is yours.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So shall we play the ball and
Yes.
slowly end? We have
Yes.
a beautiful tesseract to help us create our reality, empowering each one and empowering our voice. And trust your friends when they tell you you can do anything, because it is human to have limitations. It is human to have fears, right? It could be passed on by ancestors. It could be that we took them on from parents, from friends, but you have the power to transform and change. So, crown chakra bowl for today. Take a deep breath in. And so it is. Welcome back. It was an amazing episode as always, Isha.
Yes, yes, it was. Thank you, everyone, for all your beautiful comments. By the way, I see some names that have reached out to me for the Egypt sacred journey. I will get back to you. Thank you for your comprehension. There is a lot of people reaching out, and then also a lot of things taking place. So, yeah, I will get back to you ASAP. Thank
Get
you.
everyone, get your singing voices ready for Egypt. Start
Absolutely.
singing now. I don't care what you sing, wherever you sing, start now. Whatever song you pick, start singing it every day so
Yeah.
that you can use your voice.
Yeah, don't be shy. Don't worry. The technology in the temples will make you listen, like your voice will be heard very well. It's not, it doesn't sound like if you're singing here in your house or whatever. The technology, the chambers the technology that they use to create these chambers actually harmonizes all frequencies. That's one of their powers. This is why they heal. Just by entering them, boom, you're healed. And mainly if you or harmonized, if you vocalize, then you will be blowing your own mind, just by listening to your voice. And if you listen to that frequencies, because then you will later be capable to do that. It's just a matter of believing in yourself.
I am here to tell you that everything she just said is absolutely true. Because I'm the living proof of that. So sang my heart out last September in Egypt. So here am I singing now. There's power in your own voice and creating your reality and commanding your reality. So love to all. Thank you all for joining us today. It was a beautiful, beautiful session. And we will be connecting with you again very soon, if not sooner than 8/8. Lionsgate portal.
Yes. And then I will be sharing, or even before, the connection between the dragons and the unicorns.
Yes.
Because it even gets more interesting. Yet there is a transition and there is a high connection. There is a huge unicorn codex to be explored, and it goes really deep. So anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And well, until next time.
Magic, create magic.
Absolutely.
See you then.
HUNUH.
Bye.